Two friends meet up to drink some beers and talk about past times. Not yesterday, but long ago, it's scandals, wars, and crimes. From Stalin's reign to Prohibition, Tudors, Pompey, Bush, and NASA's mission, Edison's Bulk, Genghis Khan's rise to victory. Forget your old teacher, it's time for Pint-Sized History.
Hi there, and welcome to Pint-Sized History. I'm Joe.
And I'm Zack.
And I'm pouring myself a lovely
wait,
crepe
one
brewery
second, Joe. Before we get talked about...
I can't, what? Let me pour my beer and just say, yes, to Crepe Brewery, we like their stuff. Pint-Sized 15, Zack, East India Trading Company, talk to me.
So it's him, talk to me.
Talk to me.
Oh, I've got a great deal for you. Quake Brewery. Pint-Sized 15.
No, but seriously, talk to me. What's
No,
up?
seriously, I'm just going to have my taste of...
You literally did it.
Of East India Crepe Brewery Company. Oh,
Yeah.
I definitely should call them that.
Yeah.
They will not like that.
Yeah.
Oh, that tastes just as good as the porcelain tea, which the East India Company got from China in exchange for pure hard opium. Too right.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us back for Pint-Sized History. We're going back into...
Part 2. What? Can I not ad-lib now?
Part 2!
Yeah, I'm just throwing in my
Bring
own
the
bit of,
bass.
bringing in a bit of spice into the...
Spice. We're getting enough spice here. We don't need more spice. We're already exporting
we
and
always
taking
need
a
more
shit ton of it.
Spice.
We're talking about the East India Company again for part 2. Where we left off last week was we talked about the formation of the company, the battles with the Portuguese, the Battle of Swally. They're sort of they're beginning to set up settlements in Surat and Bengal. Bengal, sorry, not Bengal. Bengal?
Bengal.
The Bengal Tigers.
To be fair, I actually don't... I mean, we say Bengal, but I actually don't know what the real way to pronounce it is.
Anyway, we talked about how they're essentially a vassal of the Mughal Empire. They've got their own navy, and they're starting to have a bit of an army. And
They're good friends.
Yes, they've got support from the British Crown.
We just love
doing this.
trading, that's it.
Too right. And as every Brit should do, we also love a bit of conquering and plundering and colonisation.
Yeah, but they don't know that. Not yet.
Not yet, but
That's
they
what I
will
mean.
know. They will know.
Well,
it's
of
coming.
course, everyone will
And
find
it
out.
should come.
Biggest empire that's ever been. So
Too right.
the world
Greatest empire.
The world will find out. But my point is, at this point in time, the poor... was it the Mughal Empire? Mughal Empire have no idea what's about to
The
hit
Indians
their face.
don't know what's coming for them.
No.
And I'll tell you right now, it ain't good.
No, it's not.
Yeah. Right, so let's get in. The emperor of the Mughal Empire has died.
Yeah, rip.
Aurangzeb
Rip.
has died in 1707. We're in the
Gone
18th
too soon.
century now. We're at the turn of the century. And basically all the vassals of the Mughal Empire have declared independence. You said before in the first part that when a empire disintegrates, you get like a fucking tinderbox of shit just blowing up
Everyone
in
wants
your
power.
face.
They want, and even if they can't get all the power, they want their own little slice.
Absolutely, yeah. And, they'll have like a weaker neighbor and they'll try and just like take their neighbor and, consolidate their kingdom, keep it growing, purely because all they care about is dynasty and commercial opportunity and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And this is kind of exactly what the East India Company do. There's absolute chaos, by the way. It's not just the things disintegrated. There's rebellions happening constantly. There's no taxation. There's independent offshoots sprouting up. In Delhi, the capital, is constantly changing hands. 1 week it's the Marathas, 1 week it's the Sikhs. Punjab, Rajasthan, Bengal, and the Awadh all go in their own way. And the East India Company decide that this is the moment to like thrive in the chaos. I kind of liken this a bit to like the Joker in Batman: The Dark Knight, because I just recently watched that. But he says a couple of things that like kind of resonate here. He says, when the chips are down, these civilized people, they'll eat each other.
Yeah,
And
that's totally legit. Yeah.
And I've just reminded myself of why I find it really cringe when people do a Joker impression,
Yeah,
because they get
that
like
was-
really serious and like really try and do it. And I've just done that, and I'm my
that's-
own pet peeve now.
That was really painful to watch. I'm ready to leave.
I feel quite embarrassed. I don't even say my cheeks getting red.
Oh.
And he also says, the thing about chaos, it's fair. Let me tell you right now, chaos is not fair. Not for the Indians, but it is certainly a bit too fair for the East India Company. And also the French East India Company.
Oh, no,
Ooh,
no,
yeah.
no,
Yeah,
no.
the French are here. The
no,
French are here, Joe.
No, stop. Stop. That can't be right. That doesn't
Stop.
say that. That doesn't
Stop
say that.
it. It does say it.
I don't believe you.
It does say it.
The French in India? Fuck off. That's not right.
What's wrong with the French in India?
It just doesn't, that doesn't sound, listen to it.
Goa.
No, seriously, listen.
Goa,
in
Joe.
your French,
Isn't Goa French?
India. Hey, listen. French, India. Do you know what I mean?
Français?
Yeah.
Français?
Like, if you
India.
said, like,
No.
if you said, like, France, America, I'd be like, Yeah, sure. Makes sense.
So what does it mean, Joe, in history when the English and the French are somewhere together?
They can only be one.
There can only be
essentially.
one.
Because of the power that we have pushed over the world, even when we weren't planning to be the superpowers that we became during the Industrial Revolution. At the end of the day, the English and the French are, or at least were, eternal enemies. Like, all that matters, because the only people
What do you mean were?
Well, now we're kind of not. But back then, they were the only existential threat. I mean, there was a small period where the Vikings were a bit of a threat, but in general, Britain has never really had any danger of anyone actually taking over, except for the French.
And Nazi
So,
Germany.
well, yeah, I'm not talking about the modern day. I'm talking about up to this point in history, and even past
The Spanish.
The Spanish were never. They're not.
Armada,
They're not that.
pesky
They're not that
Armada.
guy. They sent an
You let
armada
that
to
guy
the
down.
English Channel and had it absolutely decimated and had to go round the fucking island to come back with their tail between their legs. They're not that guy. But the French actually were. So basically, any time that the English and French find themselves in the same spot, even if it doesn't necessarily matter for the long term, they just can't let it happen because you don't want any leg up for your eternal rival.
Too right. And that's exactly what happens in India. They come and butt heads. And they're both competing for like position and stuff like that. I'll explain where this comes to a head later. But yeah, that just a thought to bear in mind. It's not just the East India Company in India. The French are there and they're trying to get there as well.
Mm-hmm.
So the East India Company are pulling at every string possible to get as much power, territory, and money as they possibly can at this point. And so are the French. They're still primarily a merchant power at this time, but they do eventually become this like unrivaled country of an enormous area of land. With the disintegration of the empire, within that, there's an unwieldy amount of like mercenaries that are now available for hire. And the British Empire employs what they call sepoys. These are Indian mercenaries that are trained in European military tactics. And they basically they become like the main fighting force of the East India Company. By the end of the peak of their height, in like the 1800s, they had 260,000 of them. They got loads of them.
Yeah.
The company also called on Britain's Navy for assistance on the coastline and for crown troops to become garrisoned in India. And they become a vital cog in regional authority. Indian merchants and backers see it as like a really good opportunity to make some cash and like give some sort of like financial assistance to the company, give them land and let them in and make treaties with them. And they basically just keep doing that. The company would like come into an area, do a treaty or an agreement with the person, like, the ruler of the area. They would offer some gold or silver or promise security. And then eventually they establish factories and they'd build like complexes in these areas. And they basically just like leech slowly and assume like more control of an administrative zone. And then more and more as they would do that, and they would keep like, starting these administrative zones and these factories and these complexes, they would move away from like the textile goods they were exporting from there, like the spices and stuff like that, and they would start going into like direct taxation. So they would start just taking millions of Indians into the areas that they're eventually getting control over and just start actually taxing them, which is insane. Like, generating money from a people that aren't your own through taxation seems like a crazy thing to do. And the Indians...
It would have been unprecedented at that point as well. Were there many places that were being subjugated in this type of way? Because
they would have to pay levies and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But, not like...
This seems different.
You're going around tax collecting from the actual peasant themselves.
Yeah.
Which is probably quite unprecedented. Maybe it is.
Yeah, I'm not actually sure how that would work.
And their factories slowly become fortresses, and their fortresses slowly become cities, and they just like grow and grow and grow. They are literally a leech. Like that is the best way to describe the East India Company. They found somewhere, they've taken it for all it's worth, they're sucking the money out of it, and they're just pulling it away. And it's all going back to the crown and to their stakeholders who are getting like abnormally rich. Like they're profiting immensely from this. There's a very like well-known historian on the East India Company called William Dalrymple, who likens what the East India Company are doing and the kind of the massive amounts of wealth they're taking from a country to the Nazis. Because what the Nazis did was they would come into an area, they take all the gold reserves and stuff like that, they take all the art, all that kind of
once they
precious
started
jewels.
conquering.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely.
But you know what the slight differences between them? So the Nazis, and I'm not defending them, were technically at war. So it's that's kind of like they basically were taking over a
It's for
country
the war
and
machine.
then immediately start saying like, look, maybe in peacetime we won't do this, but we are trying to fuel a war machine, so we are just going to take everything. And it doesn't make it right, of course, but I'm just saying there's slightly different examples.
Yeah,
The Britain are kind of just we're leeching. We're not doing a war. I mean, technically we're always at conflict with the French and stuff, but we're not like specifically have to take as much as we can to fuel an effort. We're just kind of doing it because it's money.
We just want money. Yeah. We just want an empire.
Yeah. Which if anything makes it worse.
Yeah. Yes, you're right. The Nazis, they were
screwed on guys. They understood the system.
Too right. Yeah, the company first started doing this in Bengal, and this is kind of the path to what is eventually called company rule in India. And I think the name like company rule,
grim,
to describe colonization is, I think you say it's grim. I think it's a cool name for it.
Nah, it's grim.
Company rule.
That's grim.
It's like
Have you never had a bad boss? It sucks.
I think they got really bad bosses here.
Yeah,
That's probably not their first issue.
Exactly, man. Companies suck.
Bengal, which is the first area they truly like turn into a British administrative zone, becomes like a huge deal of the company's profits they're making in India. And they see that and they're thinking, oh, we've taken one area, we're making loads of profits from colonization and taxation. Let's just do more and more and more. And this starts to fuel like this great ambition and hunger that they have. They're still bound by the governors and rulers of the local area. They take authority from these rulers and governors. They need to have like the treaties to accomplish that, because they did lose that war 20 years ago when they, got marched against by the emperor and his troops and local governors who have far more soldiers than they do. But what I feel is at the time is like this company have seen these local rulers and governors and know they have to make deals with them to be able to like get by and do their work. But I just know their thinking, which is like the definite tale of an arrogant Englishman to think, these are inferior people. We should not be making.
You think that's what they're...
We should not be like doing deals with them. They should be working for us. This Indian.
Is that you get judging that based off the mindset of the people that are there talking?
Yeah, I just think like their disregard for rulers.
Because that is absolutely the sentiment that we carry throughout our colonization of the world. Basically, is we kind of go, well, we're actually helping these poor peasants.
Yeah, Churchill called them barbarians.
Yeah, I'm sure everyone agrees with that, but I'm talking specifically about this moment in time. Is it in their actions? Does it seem like that's how they're treating it?
In their actions, what they're doing is like they're basically installing puppet leaders around where they want to be.
Right.
So they're saying like, we'll keep people close as long as we need them, and then we'll get rid of them. It's kind of this like lack of appreciation for like life in India. The kind of outrage is sparking back home would suggest that maybe they're going in thinking these are subhumans and we're going to just conquer them because we have the divine right to do that, being Brits and being Her Majesty's Royal Company, essentially like that. It's not really factual. You can't really validate that. But I think based on the way that England has acted in the past and Britain's acted in their empire, you can safely assume that would be the case.
Is this the first real victory of our colonial empire?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because at this point, the only places we would have ruled... Did we even control Ireland at this point? We controlled obviously all of Britain.
Well, Cromwell invaded it in the 60s. Was it in the 1640s?
Yeah,
1660s,
so
after the English Civil War, Cromwell marched on Drogheda.
Right,
so
but
is
that before? That must be before. After Elizabeth I.
Yeah. So East India Company is.
So this is the first gen.
It's genuinely our first foray into colonialism, and we get it quite wrong.
Now that I think about this is kind of like a really sad indictment of how. Because we are a nation that is eventually becomes hell-bent on controlling as much of the known world as possible, we decide in that moment, this is an opportunity, we're going to take it, we're going to see how much of this country we can control. And when they do it and they make their mistakes, they're essentially getting a blueprint of how to do it elsewhere. And I guess that's what made us such excellent colonizers, was the fact that we had tons of experience in this. This is the first, this is a big task. It's not like you're invading a small island. It's a huge country that we're essentially subjugating for ourselves. And when you think about it, it's like, no wonder they were able to then, after that, go, okay, well, we could do that. And the way we did it was by doing this, doing this, doing this. We shouldn't have done this. That actually helped the Indians. So let's make sure that when we invade Africa, that we do it this way. It's like you're kind of essentially getting a play sheet of how to be an awful, evil colonizer. And then many of the other countries, like Germany and France and the Dutch and the Spanish, basically learn from us. They see what we've done and go, right, well, if they're going to do that, Spain...
Well, Spanish already done it in South America. Yeah.
Have
By this
they
point,
already
it's
gone over that?
Yeah,
by
it's
that
like the
point?
1400s where they went
Was
over.
it?
Yeah, I think Columbus went in 14.
Yeah, you
so,
probably.
no. It's yeah. It was.
I think you
Columbus
might be
went in
right.
53 or
I
something
don't know
like
if
that.
they colonized it straight away though. But
No.
you're right. You're right. Probably the Spanish have already. Well, maybe we took lessons from the Spanish then.
Probably, yeah.
My point being is that I guess in a really sad, twisted way, these type of experiences are kind of the stepping stones, as it were, of creating everything else.
Yeah.
Because of our experience here with India, we were able to do it all over Africa. We were able to do
The
it
thing you're missing, Joe.
over the indigenous peoples of Australia. It's like Jesus.
The thing you're really missing here, Joe, is that it's not the crown. It's a company.
Yeah, but
it's a corporation which has the backing of the state by this point.
Yeah, but
like ultimately it is just like a fucking capitalistic madman who wants as much control, as much money, as much profits as possible.
But the crown are funding this because they're
not funding it like to that extent. Like they're invested in it, but they're not like the East India Company feels to me from the research I've done like an independent operation. They have like some investment from the crown. The crown wants to see returns on the investment, but like the British Army is not landing in India. It's not there.
No,
it's local mercenaries
I get
being
that.
hired by a company who are trying to extract as much money as they can.
Mate, surely, even I don't know, because I don't know if you have research on this or if there's it's explained very clearly in those, like in the scripts we have from it. But surely this type of operation, even if it is done independently, is being done with a complete eye, because this is so profitable. This is the kind of thing that kingdoms dream of, is the idea that they could have someone under their own thumb
and
that are getting all this wealth for them. I mean, 50% is 50%. That's you're essentially getting half the business.
Yeah, and
this
by the end, the crown step in.
Yeah.
And the crown think the East India Company have done as much as they can do.
Yes.
And we
Now
need
it's
to
time
take
to
this
step
forward. Now it's
aside.
fine for us. They
Yeah, so
can't do it, so we need it because we're not going to lose this amazing asset.
This is,
But
I get what you're saying. Yes, it's an independent venture, but we're not really disagreeing then. I guess my point is purely that what they're doing right now is the stepping stones without realizing it's the stepping stones. Like, yes,
probably.
of course.
I don't know for a
They're
fact.
technically independent, but you could say TikTok is an independent company in China. And I'm sure that the majority of
Singapore. I'm Singaporean.
I'm Singaporean. I'm sure that the majority of the decisions are made for TikTok independently. However, there's absolutely no way that the Chinese government aren't making sure that they get what they need out of it, and that's the same with the British government with them. I'm sure
That's a hell of a take, but yeah, I don't know enough.
Flame me in the comments if I'm wrong, but
Yeah.
I think that's right.
I don't know enough. Like, I'm sure the British Crown are looking at it and thinking, like, we need to make this continue.
Mate, if you're getting 50% of the profits, you are making sure that you get what you need.
If they are, because bear in mind the East India Company is like super greedy, super corrupt as well. So like there is a good chance that a lot of this money is being embezzled away to the stakeholders as well.
Yeah.
So maybe the Crown doesn't even get 50%. But anyway,
yeah.
let's move forward now, because I think it's important that we cover this incident called the Battle of Plassey, which is where the East India Company truly gained dominance over the Indian subcontinent. So they've been doing these like factories and setting up towns and administrative zones, and really they're just kind of staking their claim over these territories in India. And then in 1757, this all comes to a head. In Bengal state, where the East India Company is most prominent, they're under the control of the Nawab of Bengal, which is like a hereditary rulers of the state. They were the most powerful people within the state, and the British have allied themselves with the Nawabs, giving them security against like rebellions and usurpers. And the Nawab is like kind of floating around. Is he going for French assistance? Is he going for British assistance? He's not entirely sure. Both the British and French East India Companies are trying to put their ruler on the throne of like the Nawab leadership to basically give as much more security and insurance assistance as they can get. And in Europe, in the meantime, there's a war of Austrian succession. So the French and British are fighting in the continent.
Nice.
In Europe, also fighting in the oceans, and this kind of leaks into
As
our
is
colonies.
tradition.
Yeah, we just can't get enough of fighting each other. And then this stretches to India, and there's like a series of sieges and conquests of settlements between the French and the British. There's this proxy war happening, where like the French will employ a local ruler or local leaders and get them to attack a British settlement. That will get taken. The British will take it back. The British will employ some local leaders and mercenaries and take that French settlement then. And this kind of goes back and forward. So eventually, the Nawabs come to this idea that the British are improving their fortifications too much and decide that they kind of need to oust us from Bengal, which is like the industrial heartland of where the East India Company is set up. This can't happen. The East India Company can't lose their foothold on Bengal because Bengal is a stepping stone to India as a whole.
Yeah.
I'm going to be throwing a lot of names around in a second, so I just wanted to briefly talk about two people who are the most important, who you'll hear and you'll recognise and you'll think these are who I've said before. Robert Clive is the commander of the East India Company's private army, which is formed mainly of mercenaries, India sepoys, and British troops. For relevance, he began his career as an office clerk for the East India Company in 1744, and he slowly got his way up
An army man
the
now.
company's private army, and he's now the leading commander of the
That's
ground force
crazy.
in Bengal. Yeah. He's not a particularly good man, and his actions lead to widespread famine and the killing of maybe 10 million people. But he's an important player at this situation because we're about to come to the Battle of Plassey, like I said. The other main player is Siraj ud Dowlah, who is the significant Mughal family figure. He's propped up by the French to become the ruler of Bengal.
Sounds about right.
Yeah.
This is George Washington, and he's basically a strong general within the English-American ranks, and the French are propping him up to become the leader of a new nation in this continent.
The French just fucking hate us. And every continent,
We did the same to them.
Yeah, every conflict at this point, we are just like going toe-to-toe. We're making sure the others can't fuck the other.
Yeah.
In April 1756, a new Nawab ruler, Siraj ud Dowlah, succeeds his grandfather to become the Nawab ruler. He's an aggressive man. He doesn't care about foreign companies. He kind of wants them to get off Indian soil because he knows they're profiting off, Indian hands, Indian population. And that's not what he's about. He marches 3,000 men to surround the fortress of Qasim Bazar. He captures British officials and takes POWs there from the East India Company, and then later marches with 50,000 men to Calcutta, which he also captures. Siraj then takes around 146 prisoners to a dungeon in Fort William, which is a former now East India Company stronghold. The dungeon is called the Black Hole, and it's an 18 by 14 foot room only able to hold 6 prisoners. And he puts all 146 men in this tiny room, like probably about the size of this room right now.
Yeah.
It is maybe
You
even
can't
less,
see that, but I can see it.
maybe even less than that. 5 days later, he opens the door to the dungeon, and out of 146 men, 23 walk out of it, with the rest dying of asphyxiation, heat exhaustion, and delirium.
Oh, grim.
While these prisoners are dying, his men plunder the city and the British factories in the surrounding areas.
Wow.
And this is a tiny atrocity compared to
of course.
compared to the atrocities that the British do commit in India.
Yeah, I'm also just saying grim for the idea of just being in a room with that many people and coming out.
But
Do they eat each other?
who?
Well, the people in that room. 140 in there, 20 come out.
I don't know the age of. Maybe they're fed. Clive is furious. Clive is incensed by this, and he leads 650 men to sack a town nearby Calcutta in 1757. And then on the 4th of February, surprise attacks the Nawab's camps, leading to like skirmishes, but like not massive losses on either side. He's like, he's angry. He's taking his kind of anger out on what he can see, nearby villages and parts of his army, but like not really going as far as he can. He sees quickly Clive in an even fight, with them both having even ground. He can't win. So what he does is he allies the company with Afghans who are invading Delhi every so often, sparking kind of public uproar, and he gives them the Nawab more to think about than just the British. He also, what he does is he tries to agree secretly a deal with Mir Jafar, who is a Nawab defector, in order to betray Siraj, who's the current Nawab ruler. So he's like, I can't win this through army force alone. I can't beat him by military means. I need to do really sneaky. I need to gut punch him, basically. I need to hit him in the balls and run.
In the back.
Which is, stab him in the back is basically the best analogy. He does that by kind of negotiating with his defector. On 23rd of June, under guarantees from the defector that he's not about to participate in the Nawab's upcoming attack on the British, Clive marches his forces to the village of Plassey. The Nawab's army came out of their camp with 30,000 men and 20,000 cavalry, alongside a detachment of French artillery.
Here we come.
The French with them had 5,000 cavalry, 7,000 infantry, like they are basically behind this puppet ruler of the Nawabs. And they want to use this opportunity to exterminate the British on the Indian subcontinent, get them off, and ensure it is now French land. Behind this, there's also an army of 45,000 reserve soldiers in the Nawab's overall army. So this is a huge army.
Yeah, it's big.
Like the British are massively outnumbered by the French and the Nawab, and this essentially is like the could possibly be the end of the East India Company in India. This is their main fortress in Bengal.
Yeah.
And it's about to be taken under them by an overwhelming assault by French and Nawab's forces. So the battle unfolds. The British have roughly 3,000 men to the Nawab's 50,000. What?
The numbers are crazy.
Yeah, they are.
3,000 to 50,000.
The British are basically relying on this defector to not attack to win the day, because all the battle plans set up are for this particular person to do what he's doing.
Yeah.
And then the British numbers will be crushed by the cavalry of Mir Jafar. So one of the Nawab's officers hastily tries to launch a frontal cavalry assault on the British lines. And this is a terrible move. He's horribly repulsed. The commander is mortally wounded, and this crushes part of the Nawab army. So the battle is already getting off to a very, very bad start.
Fucks it early.
Very Agincourt-y as well, I've got to say. In the meantime, the artillery from each armies are launching cannonades, which are basically like barrages of artillery cannons hitting each other, and they're doing damage. Siraj, seeing part of his army crushed, decides to retreat, and in doing so, provides a great opportunity for the British lines to begin a cannonade on the retreating forces. So what they do is they get up to high ground, and they decide from that position they're going to start battering the Siraj's lines with cannon fire, and they do that. And the Siraj's forces take obscene casualties from this. In the meantime, the French are basically just like standing back and launching artillery fire. They're doing what the French do. All the French do in the spirit of history is artillery. That is it. Because Napoleon is famous for artillery. Yeah. And they're good at it. That's what they do. But they don't.
It does sound cool.
They don't get their hands dirty. Fire!
Yeah.
Give those English dogs some hair.
You've seen Master and Commander, haven't you?
Yeah.
Have you seen? You remember the scene? It's my favorite scene in the movie where they're practicing their their cannon fire. They want to get it within a minute, and Russell Crowe, Jack Aubrey, gives this like speech. He's like, "Gentlemen, it's not good enough," and then he goes basically like, "Do you want the French to march down the Piccadilly? No." Do you want your kids to sing the Les Marseillaise? No! Then fucking hurry up with it! I can't do the whole quote, but I just love it. I love like the fucking...
That's a fucking underrated film, Master and Commander.
It's
such a good film.
If you ever really want to get a picture of patrioticness versus the French, naval warfare, that is Britain in a nutshell. I can't believe we've done like almost 30 episodes and we haven't touched Napoleon.
Every time
How crazy is that? 30 episodes and we've not touched Napoleon.
Yeah, I don't want to touch a barge pole. Fuck that guy.
Oh, I do.
God damn.
That'd be sick.
Back to the Battle of Plassey, where the French and the Nawab's army have lost against a massively outnumbered British force.
The Indians I'm sorry for, but the French can fuck off. So.
But what's really funny about this battle is that like Mir Jafar, the defector, is getting like called in throughout the day to meet with the Siraj and talk to him about the battle, and he's the defector. So they're going, "Oh, Mir, you're going to launch that like cavalry assault soon, yeah, aren't you?" And it's don't you worry about it. Of course I will. I definitely will. And in the meantime, he goes like to his like scout web. He goes, "Tell the British that I'm not doing anything." And he's just like consistently throughout the entire day, he's getting told something by the Siraj, and then like relays another message to the British, and he for some reason is just like. Because I think obviously he knows that if the British win this, he's going to become the ruler. So he's thinking like, because they'll prop him up as the puppet leader.
Right. Okay. That's that. I was going to say because surely he's kind of in a kingmaker role. He could just whichever side he picks is got a big chance of winning. So I was wondering why he would do that. But absolutely, that makes sense then.
So like the English have been pounding the Siraj's positions and the French positions the entire day, and apparently the rate of like artillery and gunfire has been crazy coming out from the British, just like Agincourt.
That's true.
And by 8 p.m, the British have taken the enemy's camps, and they're now just continuously plucking away a routing enemy. And the next day, Clive places Mir Jafar on the throne of the Nawab Palace after he completely purposely defects.
Wow. Okay. Damn.
Cementing the company's position in Bengal state.
Yeah.
On the 2nd of July, the Siraj is eventually caught up to, and he's murdered by a local military governor.
Oh, so he only survives for like a year?
They rout, and he's not even that, a week, 2 weeks.
Oh, damn. So that
Not Jafar, Siraj, who was the old Nawab ruler. This is what I knew would be confusing.
Sorry, I thought you meant the defector died within a few weeks.
So Siraj ul Dowland.
So he kicks it.
He's the one who was with the French.
With the French.
Yeah.
Well, then
he's been murdered.
You side with the French.
He ran away.
If you side with the French, then you got your own.
Clive and Jafar, so Clive being the East India Company commanding officer on the ground, and Jafar being the new head of the Nawab tribe in Bengal, agree to a treaty which is enormously in favour of the company. It gives them an enormous amount of land in Calcutta and Bengal, and almost £2.75 million to the company for their losses. £2.75 million back then equates to around £600 million in today's money. And a significant amount of that is embezzled by Clive and taken for his own personal wealth and different stakeholders in the company. And the Crown receive about like 200 million of that as well. Like the Crown receive a shit ton of money from this. And so does the...
Is this in modern terms still?
Well, the 2.75 million is the 600 million in modern terms.
Oh, wow.
Yes, they receive 600 million pounds for winning a war. And this fight is like super important because like the outcome is that the French no longer have a significant force in Bengal. They can't really resist the English. The English have like a much larger, more sophisticated, advanced army there. It starts a snowball effect of the British becoming the sole power in India. So much so that Mir Jafar, the defector who helped the British get to this power, starts getting worried. He starts going, oh God, this is not looking good here. These British are fortifying and they're setting up new factories and complexes. This can't happen. Like they're gonna take me out soon. So he asked the Dutch to come and assist him.
Oh, not another European rival. We've got to swat away like a fucking fly.
They go, oh, Mir Jafar, thank you for your offer. We'll definitely fight for you against the British.
Oh, thank you.
It's such an addictive accent to do, isn't it?
Feels wrong.
The Dutch come and they get defeated badly.
Sounds about right.
In 1759, Clive sees the Dutch ships and they're sort of like hesitant. And Clive just goes, fuck this, get him out of there. And he just attacks them head on and basically just decimates.
They started hearing the Max Verstappen anthem and they go, what the fuck is that? No,
what the hell is that?
I more meant the national anthem, but like, because we hear it every week. We used to hear it every week. Da, 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 na, 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 na. Na, 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 na.
Clive defeats the Dutch in 1759, catches them off guard, and defeats them badly at the Battle of Chinsura. And with no allies left to turn to, the British get rid of Mir Jafar and installed another puppet leader, Mir Qasim. The British now are basically in complete control of the Indian subcontinent. They've got no worries about European counterparts trying to take over their reign. They've cemented and solidified everything they can. Their fortresses are enormously well fortified and defended, and nothing can really touch them. And from the 1770s onwards, the East India Company just go on a tear, and they annex large parts of India, more and more and more, and just like govern those regions. They're basically making right now British India, British Raj.
Yeah,
it is just slowly but surely becoming, a colony.
Totalitarianism.
They have from there the Anglo-Mysore Wars, which happens from 1766 to 1799, and the Anglo-Maratha Wars, which happened from 1772 to 1818. And the British
win.
The British just defeat them again and again and again.
Yeah.
And more of the breakaways from the formal Mughal Empire try and like rise up, and the British put them down. And by 1856, which is like kind of the height of their power, they've taken control of Rohilkhand, Gorakhpur, the Doab, Delhi, Assam, Singh, Punjab, Kashmir. They've captured enormous lands across Pakistan and India. They agree treaties with princes in states like Cochin, Jaipur, Travancore, Hyderabad, Mysore, Gujarat, Rajputana, and Bahawalpur.
So we're just building more and more. We're just by this point we pretty much control the whole thing, right?
Yeah, and this point in time towards the end of the 18th century, this company, this like ragtag, skeleton crewed, 20 employees in London company is somehow responsible for the entire governance of the Indian subcontinent. What does East India Company rule look like? Do you have any ideas before I get into it?
Grim as hell.
Yeah, not good.
Basically, bullying the poor Indian people to extract as much minerals and spice and whatever as possible.
Bit of spice. And Joe, you love spice. Do you reckon that comes to the fact that
I enjoy adding a bit of spice, but I wouldn't subjugate people to do so.
You wouldn't subjugate people to add a bit of spice to this podcast?
No. No, that's
weak.
wrong.
So weak. The best place to start here is the fact that India in the 1700s had around 25% of the world's GDP. And following independence in 1947, their GDP is 3%.
Yeah.
But obviously there's like industrialization that happens, stuff like that. But clearly the British are siphoning Indian resources or whatever chance they can get.
As does any colonializer. That's kind of how it works.
That's why you do it, right?
Yeah.
You do it to take their resources. You do it to take their population. You do it to take whatever goods they have.
Yeah.
You do it for minerals.
If you weren't doing it, you would leave.
You wouldn't take that country. You would take a different one. The East India Company here are like notably really horribly corrupt too. And they take loads of personal wealth through like corrupt trade deals and bribes they've taken. They impose extremely high taxes on the people in their zones. They committed forced labor on the Indian populace in some cases, like on weavers and farmers. And they use violent coercion to meet their demands. Apparently, there are more Mughal Empire artifacts stacked in Powys Castle, which is in Wales. It's Robert Clive's kind of family home. Then there are in any one place in India. So we've just gutted their resources. Even the National Museum, even the National Museum in Delhi hasn't got as many Mughal artifacts as this one castle in Wales.
To this day?
To this day. I think so, yeah.
That's so fucked
I think
up.
recently, maybe like that was an article from maybe about 10 years ago, but so I imagine
maybe it's changed since then.
we are not particularly good at giving artifacts back to countries where we take them from, like the Pantheon marbles.
Yeah, I mean, mate, you could just say the entire museum. I mean, Jesus Christ.
Have we got Tutankhamun's tomb?
No, but we do have things from that tomb.
Yeah. By 1803, the East India Company, the army had grown to 260,000 men, but still only had 35 permanent employees in its head office in London. 35 employees, and they are like viciously extracting.
Yeah, but how many employees in India? Yes, 35 in London.
Not many. Like, I think at max a couple hundred, if that. Like, they don't have many, and they're not trusting Indian locals.
So what, they just pay Indians to do the rest of the work for them?
Yeah, they train them as mercenaries and then fight with them. So, like, they've got, like, very few... I guess you would say they've got to have... I guess you would say they have few employees, but at that time, they're becoming a military power.
Yeah.
So, like, what they don't have in employees, they have in, like, generals, colonels, majors, hierarchy, chief of the staff for the army. Like, they have an army hierarchy, and that's probably where the main expenses and the money goes on. That's where the employees are. But at the head of it, there's still this, like, merchant banking, capitalistic kind of idea. Except from Robert Clive, who is like the basically commander of it. And Robert Clive has made £234,000 from the conquest, making him the richest man in Europe that wasn't part of an aristocracy. Today, that equates to around £23 million. The company made £250 million from the deal they made with Jafar. And obviously, they kicked up the crown constantly. But that's one deal. Like, they've conquered 20 other places maybe since then, or done deals to do that. And they're probably getting an obscene amount of payment in doing so.
Monumental wealth.
Like, the East India Company is completely gutting India for all it's worth, and I have to talk here about
atrocities.
The real bad.
Here we go.
Yeah, we got to
get this down.
It would be unfair on all of our Indian, Pakistani, and Chinese listeners.
No, it'd be unfair on anyone that's been subjugated by the British if we didn't talk about the atrocities that the British did.
So between 1769 and 1770, 30 million people across India, mainly in Bengal and Bihar, were affected by the Great Bengal Famine. And the East India Company had been aggressively collecting taxes from the populace, and the company started buying off large portions of rice, and they were trying to get cash crops set up rather than like genuine farms to feed the people. And crop failures in 1768 and 1769 happened, and the company officials exploited the famine and basically tried to get a monopoly on the grain industry rather than trying to feed people and mitigate the crisis. There were no mitigations offered basically at all to like the Indian people at that time. And between 7 and 10 million people died by 1770. What this meant for the company, obviously, was that there was growing outrage back home. People were just like sick of the way they were treating the Indians. Nothing really being done about it. But ultimately, hatred and resentment grew in India about them. What it meant for the company is that their spinners and their weavers and their slave labor force had basically been killed. So profits were just decimated. The company's revenue was like really badly hit, and they basically need to be bailed out by the English crown 3 years later.
Wow, really?
Probably one of the first bank bailouts. So they applied to Bank of England in 1773 for a loan.
Wow.
And they received it.
That's quite interesting, really, because I guess in a way that kind of shows like mismanagement and famines that are caused by humans. Often don't serve their purpose anyway. Like, it's not that famines are ever a good thing. for a government. I mean, obviously they're not a good thing in general. I just mean for a government's perspective, if you want a famine to happen, then that's because you want to actually hurt those people. But in general, famines often happen because they are the construct of something that happens after you try to take something else. If you want to subjugate for whatever reason, then a famine might happen. If you want to ignore certain peoples, then a famine might happen. It's not that you specifically want them to die. It's just that you don't care if they die. So it becomes an irrelevant thing if they weren't able to eat. But often that does end up hurting you anyway, because you need people. You know, it's kind of like when the Black Death happened. It's like Europe's peasant population. Well, pretty much all it hurt everyone, but the populations were decimated to the point where people were so needed in these like feudal systems that suddenly they could actually push for advantages way more, because this is, you know, when a big bunch of people from a certain demographic die, it completely affects everything.
But Black Death wasn't caused by people. Like, this was caused by people.
No, I know there are different examples. I'm just using an example from a different thing that isn't a man-made famine. But I'm just pointing out that it's like these type of demographic changes will affect you in negative ways, even if you don't expect it to. And that's part of the really disgusting callousness of the situation, is that the East, if they were smart, they wouldn't fucking let it happen, because it's going to affect their profits.
Joe.
Well, but it affects their profits.
Yeah.
So that's my point. Is like they're not only are they disgusting and evil, but they're also fucking stupid.
But they see it as an avenue for more profits. Like, oh, if people can't eat, let's just fucking charge them a shit ton for grain. But they can't afford that because they're slave labor.
Exactly. But that still makes it stupid.
Like, it's this arrogant thinking of like the English British businessman who's out there thinking like, they'll be fine. We'll take all their food, we'll fuck them up, and then
So that's my point. It doesn't work. It makes you. It not only does it make you evil, but it also makes you an idiot.
True say. I agree. And I think we also have to talk about the Opium Wars, as the East India Company were essentially responsible for that too. So in the 1770s, the company started selling opium in Chinese markets for their goods, like I said earlier.
Yes.
But when the Qing dynasty outlawed the trade, British merchants continued anyway and started destroying wares. And the Qing dynasty responded by shutting warehouses, burning warehouses down in China.
They stopped us having tea.
Yeah.
And you can't do that.
This indirectly led to the First Opium War in 1839, where the British Navy attacked the Chinese coast for months in retaliation for the Qing dynasty attacking our warehouses and storehouses of opium.
Best name for a war?
Best name for a war? The Opium War.
I think the Opium War was best.
War of the Roses?
That's good. Yeah, that's a good one. Emu War.
Emu War, that's a good one, yeah. Boer War? These are all very British-centric wars, aren't they?
Because they're ones that are coming to our mind. 100 Years War.
100 Years War's a great one,
That's a good one.
7 Years War?
Yom
Kippur
War. Yeah, that's a good one.
I like that.
7-Day War.
There's a Israeli wars, two of them there.
Well, that's why, because you said the first one. It reminded me of another.
So the Opium War's happening. The British Navy are attacking the Chinese coast for months. They're really kind of blockading and prohibiting Chinese, the Qing dynasty to be able to like function properly. Like, we're really throwing around our military might here. And it eventually leads to the Treaty of Nanking, or Nanjing at the time, being signed, which then gives Hong Kong to the British. We took Hong Kong. I didn't actually realise that this is how we got Hong Kong.
Yeah.
This is it. And this is like the history of British and Chinese relationships. We got them all addicted to opium. Like, we ruined the country by getting thousands, maybe millions of peasants.
Because they took our tea.
No, we took their tea and we gave them our opium.
It's our tea. It's our tea. It's got our fucking name on it. I'll have you know.
Yorkshire tea.
Yeah.
It's probably Chinese tea. It's probably Guangzhou tea.
Guangzhou tea that we just packaged it up as Yorkshire tea.
So the Opium War was responsible for this like horrible outbreak, and that's the East India Company at its baddest.
At its most ridiculousness.
But by the early 19th century, the fortunes of the company are diminishing. We're getting close to the end of the story here. In 1773, the company asks for a bailout from the government, and they do so. They're also partially responsible for the Boston Tea Party in 1773, because they're given competitive advantages over American tea vendors.
Right.
Essentially, the East India Company are responsible for the American Revolution.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. I didn't realize that.
That makes sense, you know.
And then finally, in 1813, the company's monopoly in India is ended with the Charter Act of 1813. And by 1833, their monopoly in China is ended. But the company's still going. They're still in India. There's still company rule. But in 1857, the Sepoy Rebellion happens. And this is an enormous uprising across India against the rule of the British East India Company and their administration. Really, at this point, the company is going bust and their power is dwindling anyway, but they've still got a massive army and they're still administrating these zones. The Sepoys in the country, which are these mercenaries, form a mutiny and they erupt into rebellions across the country. The main reason for that is hatred of company rule, high taxes, the treatment of landowners and princes, and the fact that Britain was talking about how they were improving the economy, but really they're just like pulling all the resources out. The rebels start off well, they quickly reach Delhi, but the East India Company call in reinforcements. A number of key states don't get involved. So Bengal, Madras, Kashmir, Hyderabad, Mysore, and I say Kashmir twice, distance themselves from the rebellion. And by 1858, it's quashed. During the rebellion as well, atrocities are committed by both sides. General Neil, who is a East India Company general, massacres thousands of civilians, merely suspecting them of supporting the rebellion. And every time the company recapture a city, they commit a huge atrocity in the city. They're just like, let's make sure and let's kill loads of them.
Jesus.
The British also forced many Muslim or Hindu rebels to eat pork or beef. And the British also rape loads of Indian women as well. And the rebels rape British civilians too. So there's, as in any war, there's always widespread rape, and women are the first to feel the effects of war. What this does is it spells the end of the East India Company. They were losing power, like I said, but the British Empire, the British Crown, sees this as an opportunity to get rid of the company, which is growing. It's growing too powerful. It's not doing well. Its profits are terrible. Got to get rid of it. And what they do in 1858 is they bring about the Government of India Act, which transfers the ruling powers from the company back to the crown. The government then create the India Office with the Secretary of State for India. And while the bureaucracy is kind of the same and the people in those positions are the same, the crown really are now like the key responsible party for the rule in India. I guess parliament and government.
Taken over.
Yeah. There was greater autonomy and responsibility given to Indians and locals after this. There's far more rights given to people in the Raj.
Which is what they call it, by the way.
Yeah, the British Raj, yeah.
British Raj.
But really, it's still kind of fundamentally the same, just like with an eye to trying to avoid rebellion by appeasing local leaders when they can. The company kept trading tea around until 1873, and the formal dissolution of the company occurred on the 1st of June, 1874, and that is the end of the East India Company.
Wow. Served their purpose, didn't they?
Yeah. And I just want to ask you
some.
Just one question, Joe. What companies do you think have had an effect on the world as bad as the British East India Company?
As bad.
Can't think of any, can you? How about this? How about you could say something like, you could say the East India Company. They're pretty bad things.
I would have said them.
Yeah. They're probably the worst you can think of, right? But then you think of like, Apple and Amazon and how, they're not necessarily evil.
And look, Apple and Amazon are awful.
But let me just
they're not
get this point across, because they have produced horrible labor conditions across the world. They produced terrible environmental impacts and exacerbated inequalities. The rich get richer and the poorer get poorer. You could talk about how the certain technologies that they harvest and farm from African countries like Democratic Republic of Congo have been responsible for civil wars there and massive atrocities happening in there as they try and get as much tungsten or whatever the material is out of the earth and the blood materials that we extract to fuel our consumer economy. But that's a conversation for another day.
Yeah, I can hear you trying to needle out your communist rhetoric at the end of this podcast. I don't know. I don't think Amazon or Apple are the same level as the East India Trading Company.
No. But that is a point to consider nonetheless.
Well, companies are getting more powerful and their morals aren't improving at the same rate. So I do agree that it's troubling times at the moment, but I don't think a comparison between the East India Trading Company and their subjugation of India is the same as Amazon having
it does an injustice
bases.
to Indians as well to
compare them. That's another level.
Anyway, thank you for listening to this episode of the Pint-Sized History podcast on the East India Company. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did.
Yes, thank you very much for hosting it all and telling us. That was a lot of notes, by the way. I believe that the notes he has for today's episode, the 2 parts,
18 pages, is 6,000 words,
is the most we've had of any podcast we've done so far. So that is a hell of a lot of notes to get.
And
through.
I did say to you about 2 months ago, I was like, I need to have less notes.
You did, yeah.
I can't have notes because notes fuck me up, but I'm giving my.
You just waffle. He just starts going on tangents, and
were you bored today?
And he talks too quickly. I fell asleep. He answered your question. No, it was good. I really like it. I'm just impressed because, we made a concerted effort to have less words in future notes because we feel like it's a detriment. But he ignored that principle for this one. And somehow we've actually seemed to have gotten through it and not taken 5 hours to tell the story. So that somehow worked. So we're all good.
Hey, it's just this fucking big guy up here.
Yeah.
This big brain boy.
Huge noggin.
Anyway, thanks for tuning in and I hope you enjoyed the podcast. We'll see you next time.
See you in the next episode. Bye-bye.
Bye.